Hi everyone. In this video, the topic I'm going to approach is not related to spirituality directly, because of course what I'm going to discuss has spiritual implications, but the people involved in such kind of practices do not really believe in God. So that's why it's not directly related to spirituality. It is actually the lack of spirituality that results in the thing that I am going to discuss in this video. So I am going to reference two examples. The first example is of a girl who was found in a railway station in India, and she was likely taken to an orphanage because she was an abandoned girl child, and she was a toddler when she was abandoned. And at that time, when you're a toddler, you don't remember anything about your life except maybe your name. You don't know where you came from, so they could never trace her parents, and that girl was then eventually adopted by a woman from outside in India, and she grew up in a different country, and she was called Mahogany in the other country, and her name in India was Rakhi. Now, the woman who had adopted her had some mental health issues and other social problems possibly in her life. And though she felt having a child would solve some of her possibly loneliness related issues, that woman was not a good mother to this child. And because she likely faced abuse, neglect, possibly mental health related repercussions while growing up with that adoptive mother, this girl ended up separating from her mother, and her mother eventually also passed away from some illnesses that her mother had. So now this girl Rakhi, who was searching for her biological parents in India and biological family in India, she came to India to help her with the search. The thing that girls like her need to know, because there are not just simply her, there's another girl whose story I saw. I don't remember the girl's name. That girl had a better quality life, and now she's married also to someone else and has her own child, but she came to revisit India, the orphanage from where she was adopted. I don't know whether that girl is searching for her parents, but when you are a adopted kid in India, outside India, anywhere in the globe, you will naturally have this inclination or hope someday to meet your biological parent, because everyone wants to feel connected to their roots. So because we have this urge to feel connected to our roots, that urge to be connected to our roots itself can cause people to go and search for their biological parents. And then, in the case of those children whose adopted parents might have died, or adopted parents were very cruel towards them, or they didn't have a very ideal setup when they were being raised by their adopted parents, all those kinds of kids also will have a void in their life, that if you had a good set of adopted parents who gave you a good childhood, who raised you the best way they could, and weren't there wasn't too much abnormality in your um, upbringing when you were raised by your adoptive parents, at that time, if you find out you were adopted, and if you at that time want to search your roots, you will have actually a conflicted emotion inside you, because you will feel, if you know that you're adopted and you had a really great childhood with your adoptive parents, you might feel conflicted that what if the person you meet will not live up to what you may not want to meet only your biological parents, because you will have a loyalty towards your adoptive parents. Some may not want to meet only their biological parents if their adoptive parents had given them a really privileged life or a good life. Some may want to meet with their biological parents but might get disappointed meeting their biological parents if their biological parents are not as rich as the adoptive parent, not as privileged as the adoptive parent. Some could even feel ashamed of their biological parents if they find out that the biological parents came from some seedy part of life. Because understand this, many children, when they are adopted or abandoned, children don't get simply adopted or abandoned if they were coming from a very ideal circumstance in their parents' life. So, a child who gets abandoned at a railway station has got a heavy likelihood that if unless the child got lost by accident, in most cases, if the child was not lost by accident and was deliberately abandoned, it is possible that the child could have been going through some sexual abuse related things in their family, or there were sexual abusers or predators in their family, and the father or mother of the child decided that they don't want the child to be raised in a predatorial setting, and that's why the parent could have adopted the child. Meaning it could have been like they're living in a joint family. The father knows the father was also possibly abused by elderly in the family, and he knows that that predator has the potential to abuse the girl child also. So he decides that let the girl child at least go. He abandons the child because he finds maybe that is a better solution, that at least strangers might treat her better. That could be one reason someone can abandon. Another reason someone can abandon, that if the mother has already let's say given birth to 5 children, they're all girl children, and the family is struggling with they are low poverty, under the poverty line family, they're struggling with finances, and adding another girl child into the mix, there's a big huge stigma in India about girl children also, raising girl children also, because there's usually dowry related problems after the girl turns 18. There is also again sexual predator related issues. So all of these could have led again some parent to abandon a child because they can't feed the child. They know in the future also much more trouble will happen in their financial life because they're already overburdened with their finances. So that could cause someone to be abandoned. There could also be an abandonment. Let's say you are a child of a prostitute and someone was involved in prostitution activities. Your parent was involved in those activities, but your parent died, and after your parent died, there is no one in the person who was pimping them or the person who was sleeping with them. When the mother has died, there is no one who truly cares about the mother or the child. So because there's no one who truly cares about the mother or the child, once the mother is dead, again that could be a reason for abandoning a child. So there is so many painful reasons. Or someone could have been raped, and sometimes when babies are abandoned at a time, if the person was raped and they don't want the world to, there's a lot of shame surrounding rape and people don't want to talk about rape. People hardly get justice surrounding rape in our country. So when justice is not possible, when social shame is high, when people want to hide that they were pregnant, at that time also people can abandon a baby. Or there could have been also a third case, if you have seen Giselle Pellicot's case in France. What is happening in France doesn't mean that it is only restricted to France. It is likely also happening globally in different countries and some different version of the same thing. So what she had experienced in her marriage, that she felt was a very good marriage, or at least an average level marriage, but despite that, what her husband was doing was he was drugging her, and she didn't even know that she was being drugged. For 10 years of her life she has been drugged, and other men have been sleeping with her without her even becoming aware that she was drugged and someone was using her body for sex. So that drugging, that drug that exists, that can cause a woman to completely be passed out and not be aware consciously that someone is using her body, that same drug does exist in other parts of the globe. And if not that same chemical, some version of that chemical can exist in other parts of the world. And if that similar chemical or same chemical is prevalent in other parts of the world. It is also because if 70 plus people have done this to her, 70 plus people have been detected about doing this to her, but the real number could be more than 70, because there could be other people who didn't get recorded when she was being abused in this way. So, and in the recorded videos, you know that for 10 years her husband has done this, but someone who did it continuously for 10 years like this, in the initial years of their marriage, he could have done it on and off, here and there. So actual number of people who slept with her could be much more higher than what has been found out. And initially, a person who drugs someone can test the drug on someone, and this thing I mentioned in my previous video, that there is this girl who had met in my life in US, and I knew her for a few years in US before I left US. And in those few years I had been because we became friends, we were both from India, and because of that reason we used to, and we her husband was friends with my boyfriend, so because of this sometimes we used to go for dinner or lunch dates, and sometimes we used to hang out in each other's homes, watching movie and having lunch or dinner together with each other. So in some of those experiences when I had, and sometimes it was just 4 people having dinner, sometimes it was just 3 people having dinner or lunch, sometimes it was a group of 5-6 people invited for dinner over to their place. So I had gone through all these experiences, which is normal that when you make new friends, sometimes one-on-one lunch and dinner can happen sometimes. So I went to their home one time. That was the last time I went, and that is the first time that was the first memory of my realizing later on that I was possibly drugged by her or her husband. But I feel it is her, because she is the one who has been very angry when I started talking about abuse, talking about trauma related things. She started getting very triggered about it for some reason, and the way she was triggered later on led me to realize that she was involved in something illegal related to me. So that was the last visit to her home. After that, she had made one more visit to my home in US, and in over the period of like I think I knew her for about 3 or 4 years, and in those 3 or 4 years there were 5-6 times we met, and in each other's homes, and outside each other's homes also multiple times we had met. In those times when I met them in their home, the first time I went to their home, it was a large group of people eating dinner, and we ate dinner, we watched a movie, and while watching that movie, I remember I fell asleep in the middle of the movie. Now, someone who's trying to drug you, they can put anything, they can give you drinks, they can put something in your soup, they can, whatever food they are serving you, whatever drinks, when you're going to someone's home and it's not a potluck lunch or dinner, you can serve anything to anyone, and you can specifically serve something different to the person whom you are intending to drug, right? So at that moment, and I didn't know at that time that she was drugging me or anything suspicious was going on there, but I distinctly remember that it was a 2 hour English, 1.5 to 2 hour English movie, and for at least half an hour or 1 hour of that movie, I fell asleep. So she could definitely have done something to me at that time point. And at that time I just assumed that I used to work, I had a lot of busy work. I was working as a pharmacist, so I had long hours of work. I was also studying as a student, so I had long hours of studies going on. So I had just assumed that I fell asleep because I was tired, and I didn't think anything suspicious at that time point. Then another time I went again in a group setting to their home for lunch and dinner, and for that interaction is very vague right now in my memory, so maybe it's not important for this case, so I will forget about recalling what happened in that instance, but it was a vague memory, and there was, I feel, potentially something did happen there as well, but the memory of it is not clear, which is also what can happen when people are testing or trying to give you different kinds of drugs. Some drugs will wipe your memory out, some drugs will cause you to fall asleep. So even with this Giselle, her husband, likely didn't just use one drug on her. They, based on all the things that I have heard so far about her, the news articles that I have seen and read, videos that I have watched, I can perceive that she was likely drugged via a couple of different drugs, because the memory lapses she was having, the memory loss she was having, and obviously the great level of unconsciousness she had. And there are also drugs that cause women to also have a easy flow of body fluids while they are having, someone is having sex with them. All of these are things people who are covertly trying to rape you, covertly trying to do some illegal activity using your body, can end up doing to you. So that second memory was very vague. So it is possible that the reason it is vague is because there was some chemical added which wipes out some memory elements from an interaction. Then the one major one that I remember, where I had gone to her home for lunch, and at that time I had broken up with my boyfriend, and they had just invited as if to sympathize with me and talk to me as a friend. So when I was meeting them in their homes post that breakup, at the time we just ate lunch, and it was a Sunday or Saturday, most probably a Sunday afternoon, and we ate lunch and then we watched a movie. And again, that is another second time I remember distinctly watching a movie with them, where again it was a 2-hour international movie with subtitles, and in the middle for 1 hour I fell asleep. And many people might assume if you're watching a movie with subtitles, people sometimes get bored and fall asleep as a result of that. But at that time point of my life, I was not having a busy life. I had cut down I was not working at that time. I had only a few classes to take. I didn't have as much of a class load as I had in the beginning of the time when I got introduced to this group. So I was not as overworked, not as busy. So technically I shouldn't have been that tired to fall asleep, because my workload, all the things that I used to do 2 years previously, when the first incident might have happened 1.5 to 2 years previously, all that workload, all that tiredness had cut down to nearly half or 1/3 of that load. And because I had only half or 1/3 of that load at that time, I shouldn't be that tired, I shouldn't have fallen asleep. But nonetheless, I still fell asleep for an hour during that movie watching session. And again, when you are getting drugged and you trust someone, you don't know that you are getting drugged. It's only later on, after 10 years later, I'm realizing that possibly all these things were happening with me, and not because I read Giselle's story and I came into sudden conclusion that this is what was happening with me. In fact, Giselle's story I saw only recently in the media a few weeks back, and in my own Facebook page, I didn't mention this girl at that time, because obviously you can't accuse someone without having concrete proof. I still don't have concrete proof. It's not that the concrete proof cannot be derived even 10 years later, but this is where lawmakers and legal systems also need to wake up, that sometimes the victim doesn't know something happened to them until much later when they are doing. And I got insight about the fact that I was potentially getting drugged only later, when I was doing something called energy healing. I was healing from other traumas of my life. So while being in the process of healing, I slowly started figuring out, and I was doing some meditation related activities. All of these, there were a combination of things I was doing, and a combination of other life challenges that were happening with me, all of which led me to finally realize that intentional drugging might have happened. And in those years, from the time when I was drugged to the time when I am doing these healing activities, there was a whole gap of many years where I have not touched any medications, I have not consumed any medications deliberately. The only medication I have taken is like a health and nutritional supplement, So very there's like no chance of me consuming anything that should cause drugging in my body. And even at that time when I was drugged, at that time also I was not on any medications that should have caused drowsiness or sleepiness to happen in my body. So that's why only it is when you don't consume a lot of medications, when you are 100% sure at that point of time you were not consuming any medications that should cause you this extreme sleepiness and drowsiness phase, and you fall asleep suddenly out of the blue. I was completely knocked out during those movies. Like sometimes, you're partially drowsy, you're partly watching the movie, that also happens. And that is what will happen if you are really tired, but this was like complete knockout had happened. And then there is also the final visit that that girl had with me in US was during another year later, and during approximately a year later, or approximately 5-6 months later. I think approximately a year later it had happened, and there was one more interaction that had happened. She had taken great pains to come and visit my me when I was getting married in California. And though I had invited her, I hadn't expected her to come to the wedding in California, because she wasn't that deep a friend of mine. It was a casual friendship that we had, that once a year, two or three times in a year, we were hanging out with each other. And there was no deep emotional bond with her, where even if you are from India, sometimes you can have very great friendship with someone where you have a lot of things in common with them, and sometimes you don't really have a lot of things in common with each other. So she was a girl with whom I actually technically didn't have a lot of things in common, except the fact that we both were raised in Mumbai, and we both were from India, and we both had come to US for studies. That is the only three things that were in common. But when I used to converse with her also, principally about in her conversations, in our interests, there was nothing that matched for us, that we weren't really that great friends. And even when I was hanging out in their homes, the reason why the hanging out worked out was because I was lonely. I didn't have that many friends. Secondly, because initially I had a boyfriend who was a friend of her husband, so that's why we were hanging out. So if I didn't have that boyfriend, I would never have met that girl. I would never have hung out in their homes or been friends with them, because many things about what they like to do and what I like to do were very different. There was also a time when we had gone trekking in the summer time, and in the trekking she had brought these parathas for the trekking, and when I consumed those parathas, I felt extremely drowsy after consuming those parathas. And at that time I felt maybe I overate or something, or there was a dehydration problem also going on, and that's why I'm feeling drowsy or dizzy. That is what I assumed at that time. But later on I'm realizing it is highly likely again that that consumption of the paratha was giving this drowsiness to me, because of the fact that there was something chemically there in the parathas that caused the drowsiness. Now that one, whether she did it intentionally or unintentionally, I don't know. But when coming down the hill, it was a long 8-hour trek that we had done. Everyone and people hadn't bought any water also with them. I was the only one who had bought a significant amount of water. Other people had bought just enough water for themselves, and I had bought enough water for me. Like 2 bottles of water or something was there with me, I think, possibly. But even those 2 bottles went away within the 8 hours, because it was a long hot summer day, and I had shared the water also with other people. So eventually 2 bottles were not enough for a group of, I think, I don't remember, 6 or I can calculate how many people were there, but it was about 6 or 8 people were there in that trek. Let me calculate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think 7 people were there in that trek. So in that group of 7 people doing that trek, and 2 cars had been taken while doing that trek to the bottom area where cars can be parked. No, was it 7? Or was it 5? Possibly 5 people were there, not 7. I'm confusing. or maybe 7, because I didn't take pictures of everyone. Some people were going really ahead of us. Actually, 8 people were there in that trek, and two of us were really bad at it because we are not so used to doing these treks. So in the while coming down, we were both very slow, very much dehydrated, very much less agile when we were coming down the trek, and we would have almost died that day if some lady who was trekking along with us hadn't shared her water with us, because we were so dehydrated we would have passed out from dehydration, or worse, if that final drop of water hadn't been given by someone to us. And then one of our friends who had gone down, he had some empathy for us, and he came back up to give us some water, even though it was a long trek. But possibly being a Utan, he had done much worse treks, so he knew the dangers, so he came back up to give us some water. But so all these interactions, there were so many interactions where I felt drowsy, dizzy, and really knocked off. And then the last, when she came for my wedding also, that day also when I slept, I had a grogginess based sleep, and not just grogginess based sleep, I also had a sleep where I was dreaming about something, like the kind of dreams where at that time I didn't know this, but there is this group where people do energy healing, and in that group one person had asked me once, based on me personally or somewhere, they had asked, like, are there people who have taken psychedelic drugs, or drugs that can enhance your clairvoyance? And at that time I didn't even know there are drugs that can enhance your clairvoyance. But this is what had actually happened to me in that visit that she had done. I dreamt about something, and I feel in that visit also she might have put something in my food, because I really literally had a clairvoyant like dream in that visit, and I had woken up feeling groggy. But again, it was not unusually something that clicked for me at that point of time. But the thing that was suspicious was, like, if you're meeting someone for 10 times or 5-6 times personally in your home or in their home or in some other person's home, and every time you are sharing a meal or staying over together at each other's places, at that time if you are falling asleep or having these hallucinatory dreams or falling asleep unexpectedly, it is suspicious. If out of 100 times you visit someone, 10 times you visit someone, one time you fall asleep, you can attribute it to tiredness. But if it is happening repeatedly, obviously something other than tiredness is happening. And that's why only it clicked in later on for me that it is possible that she had drugged me, which is an important thing relevant to these women who are now trying to find out about their past. And this first girl, there are also and it's not just relevant to these two girls, but anyone who is wanting to figure out their ancestry, wanting to figure out their past, they need to know that what they will uncover about their past could be very shady elements, and you can also end up getting in while searching for your family, you can end up getting in even deeper trouble by attracting shadier people into your life, more dangerous people into your life. Because this girl, how did she have access to all these drugs? She must have had access to all these drugs via some illegal people that she knows, via some people she knows is doing illegal activities and taking advantage, stealing from them. I don't know how she got access to these drugs, but I do know that she had other friends from other countries, and so her anyone who has this criminal mindset or sociopathic tendencies of taking advantage of another human being can do that by when they are really, they have good high IQ or good judge of character, they can actually use and manipulate someone to for some financial gain, and she was a very financially savvy person as well. So that girl, when in her last visit, when in US, I went through a divorce immediately, a few months after the marriage happened. The separation happened, and she found out that my marriage is breaking apart and I might leave US, or at the very least I might leave Utah and move to a different place. So she knew that was going to happen to me, that my marriage is ending, and that in the future, whether I'm going to live in US or not, Utah or not, is going to be up for question. So at that time, knowing that fact also, she came to my home. She came and slept at my home that night, saying that she was having fights with her husband. And I trusted her, because why, I didn't know at that time that people can lie about things. So whether she was lying or whether she was telling the truth, I don't know. And people who are also highly intelligent criminals sometimes use partial truths. So it's possible that she had a fight with her husband some other day, but the day that is important to her to do something, she will use that excuse to come and stay at a friend's place. So she came to stay at my place, saying that she had a fight and she just needs a place to stay and she just needs girl talk. And I believed her, because when I was going through breakup, she already knew my history of breakups with two people, right? So knowing my history of breakups with two people, she knows now that this girl, when she breaks up or has a fight with a partner, she likes to talk about those breakups or have a friend around. So if someone knows that that is your personality and they want to manipulate you, they can pretend to be that same kind of a person as well, right? And later on I realized that she was that kind of a person, because obviously, even though she came to my place, when we hung around that night, there was nothing in the conversation we had that showed that she was that kind of a personality who needs a friend to talk to. And not just that night, but after that also, she has also got divorced from her husband. She had also occasionally tried talking to me about her marriage, and whenever we have had conversations now, and I have had other friends who have been in challenging marriages, other friends who have been traumatized by their marriages, other people who, even if they are in challenging marriages, they're not in greatly major challenging marriages, but minor level challenging marriages. So someone who has a minor challenge in their marriage, moderate challenge in their marriage, massive challenge in their marriage, went through divorce in their marriage, each of these categories of women will have a different and then according to not just the challenge but their personality type, everyone will express their grief in a different way, and not express their problems also in a different way, right? Like, people can stay silent also about their problems even when they're going through a very challenging phase, but what they say about their marriage, what they talk about regarding the difficulty they are facing, actually tells a person, at least a person like me, about how traumatized they are, or how emotionally impacted they are, or how broken they are about a marriage failing, or a marriage going through a challenging phase, or a marriage where now it's heading towards divorce, or it's already gone into a divorce and now they are recovering from a divorce. So do you understand? Like, I have had all these friends, and though I don't speak to all my friends all the time, I am the kind of a person who, even with a minor information from some person, can understand what they are going through in life. And and these varying range of friends are the friends that I have in my life. And I not just friends in my life, I also watch videos. Sometimes universe knows this is my skill set, so universe has sent me videos of all these girls, also came to me via the universe sending it on my feed. I am not going and searching for these women's stories, but because I have the perceptive capacity to understand what they are going through and what similar people like them might be going through, because I just didn't see videos of just these two women searching for their past or searching for their biological parents. I also know of other women who, or men, or other children who are also adopted, who are also questioning whether they should connect with their biological parents, who are also not sure whether they should connect to their biological parents, and all these different range of people's videos also I have watched. I'm just not using them in my reference. But now the trauma of a person who is searching for their parent, and or the dilemma of a person who is not sure whether they should connect to their parents, all these are one theme that I want to address here. But beyond that, why am I introducing this element of drugging is because this girl likely drugged me to take my eggs. And after taking my eggs, because that day she came to have a discussion apparently about her broken marriage or a fight in her marriage, but she didn't discuss much about that. And then we had some dinner or something, possibly, I don't even remember what we had, but we fell asleep. We chatted maybe maximum for an hour. When you are actually grieving or traumatized about an experience with your partner, you just don't have those short conversations. If you are having a conversation with a friend, when you have a girl talk with a friend about something really distressful about your life, you will have actually 2-3 hours of talk, or you will talk throughout the night about your experience. Because I've had friends who have talked like that with me, and I myself talk like that with my friends. When I'm going to a friend for a support, going to a cousin for a support, or a cousin or a friend is coming to me for support, when we are doing that for each other, we are having those 2 hour conversations or whole night conversations. But that didn't happen with her, and that was a suspicious red flag for me. But I assume that maybe she is a little bit more introvert like, and that's why she didn't discuss about her problems, even though that is the excuse she used about coming to my home. And then that night also I didn't find anything suspicious. The only thing suspicious that was happened in the next day, where I woke up very late in the morning. We woke up around 10 o'clock, and she had told me that she wants me to drop her off around in the 11 o'clock or noon time or 1 o'clock time, like between 11 to 1, some time around there. She had wanted me to drop her off to a place that she said she needs to go to. And at that moment of time, that's the day, that in the morning when I was feeling groggy, also I was being a good friend. I was like, okay, fine, she wants me to drop her off somewhere, there's nothing suspicious about it. So I went ahead, I took my car. She had come via bike half the way to my place. She had ridden a bike, and then the rest of the way she had taken some public transport to come to my home. So I drove her to this place, which was in between my home and her home. Her home was in so in that in between place where I drove her to, there. Now again, I wouldn't have found anything suspicious if something suspicious was not really going on with her, and because she didn't initially want me to drop her off to the exact location she wanted to go to. So that I found suspicious. Why is she not telling me where to? She just wanted me to just drop her off at a random street, and I could tell it was just a random street. There was no building or anything nearby where she wanted me to drop her off. So I was like, are you sure you want me to drop you off here? I can take you to the place that you need to go to. She's like, no, it's fine. She hesitated a while, and then she eventually did allow me to drop her to a place that looked near to some other place where there was a parking lot and things like that. But again, she didn't want me to know where she was exactly asking me to drop her off. But while I dropped her off, and then when I was taking a turn in the street to go back home, at that point I realized that she had told me to drop her off at a women's health center. And at that time also, again, I'm not being a very suspicious person, paranoid person. I assumed that she had asked me to drop her off to a women's center, maybe because she has some women's health issue going on that she doesn't want her husband to know. And because she doesn't want her husband to know, maybe because she's a private person, that's why she's asking me to drop her off at that women's health center without her husband knowing about it. And maybe that's why she used the excuse of a fight. This is what I thought. But now later on, I'm realizing, if a woman was simply going through that simple issue that she has some health issue which she doesn't want to discuss with her husband, again, if you're not a criminally minded person, if you're not a manipulative person, and if you actually are good friends with also someone, or at least good enough friends to trust them about these issues. And these are issues women do need other women to help each other. Like if you are a balanced woman, sane woman, you should be discussing certain life problems with, and you're not an antisocial personality. A woman seeking help from another woman about her health condition is the norm women usually will go through, any normal woman. But she wasn't a normal woman. That is what I understood later on about her. So that's why she didn't trust me, that's why she didn't tell me why she was going there. And then now I'm realizing she likely had some more ulterior motives, that why was she repeatedly drugging me and testing different drugs on me. It is very likely she was like this Giselle Pellicot's husband kind, who might have experimented with different drugs with her also, to give her these blank out phases, to figure out how long she passes out after taking a drug, because every drug doesn't act in a person's body at the same level. And if it is an illegal drug, illegal drugs information also will be little less accessible to someone. So you wouldn't know, if for a normal legally studied drug, if you know that this drug can cause someone to sleep for 6 hours or 6 to 8 hours, in someone's body it can cause them to sleep for 6 hours, in someone else's body it can cause them to sleep for more than 8 hours as well, because 6 to 8 hours is the average window. But someone can also sleep for only 4 hours with that same drug. Someone can sleep for 10 hours also after taking that drug. And these different ranges happens because of the person's body type and other things related to their genetic constitution. So knowing all these things, if she is a high level criminal, she is now experimenting to see what drug causes what level of sleepiness with me. Why? Because now I suspect this, that she likely took some eggs from me, and she went through, because the month this happened with me, 3 months or 4 months later, she told me that she is pregnant, and she had a child another 8-9 months later. And so the timeline when egg could have been extracted from me and then used for a surrogacy related birth happened with me without her getting any permission from me, her getting any consent from me, her simply drugging me consistently without any which is a violation of my body. And these are the things that women go through via people they trust, and via antisocial personality or criminally minded people's hands, without realizing that this is going on with them. And not only this, I've written an article about Giselle, which I will link in here, which is an article meaning a post I've written about Giselle on my Facebook page, which I'll link here. And it's a public post that I have created, because this is something people who are going through these challenges of finding out their biological family need to think about before they venture into what they are venturing. And these two women, they've already started venturing into this, but there are many people who are thinking whether they should venture into it. Or if you are venturing into it, be careful about who you connect with when you are going on this search, because not everyone you connect with will have your best interest. Not everyone will be a good human being. Some of them might also be criminally inclined, mentally ill human beings. Because this woman, she does have antisocial personality traits. She does have lack of remorse about the fact that she's using someone who's trusting her for their biological parts without getting permission from them. If they have used some sedative hypnotic drugs, or if she's an expert forger as well, she could have forged also some documents. And so this is a lot of big expansive criminal activities she could have been involved in, where she could have forged my documents. And understand, if she has access to my home, if I have gone to her home, most of us do carry our identity, we do carry our some identity based information with us that determines that this is our identity. So she can easily have had access to my identity that she could have used to make false documents, and she could have forged a signature or done something to show that I'm giving the egg out of the goodness of my heart, when that didn't happen. So this is the thing. Or she could have also, because she works in finance, she could have even created a false bank account in my name, or used my own banking information to put some money in my account to pretend as if I have sold my eggs to her or something like that. Because this is what high level criminals do. Whether she did this or didn't do this needs to be investigated, but there are women and men like this who do this to people who trust them, people who are married to them. Because with Giselle Pericot, her husband who was married to her did it. With many other women, partners who are married to them can do it, partners who are dating them can do it. In the case, there's a second case I have discussed in my Facebook post. In that post, that woman was continuously giving birth, and then her children were being sold off for or adoption. And at that time point also, there is some discussion I have given to something that was discussed in the video, which was a questionable thing. But these questionable things arise in our life when there is something suspicious going on, when the truth is hidden by people in our lives who do not want us to discover the truth. And then this person, and the reason why I am mentioning this is all relevant factors, because if I have a biological child somewhere in the world as a result of the eggs she took from me, and if she has used that egg, someone else, and then she released, and out of greed she might have released, if she had taken, let's say, 4 eggs and one was used for one birth, that that child that she took as her biological child, and she's pretending that that is her biological child when it is not her biological child, which is also a problem of all those kids who are raised by people who are not their biological parents. Sometimes those biological parents who are raising a child who's not their biological child, they're raising that child out of greed, out of some false sense of, because if you are again a high level criminal, you know that if you are pretending to be someone's mother, or you have a child along with you, people will be softer towards you. And you are a high level criminal who does a lot of crime related activities, those people like to carry a child around with them, so that people with empathy, people with softness towards someone being a mother will be more mother or a father will be more lenient with them if some crime was caught against them. That is the reason why these people use these fronts. And she definitely has a body type that can't give birth to a baby, according to me. That needs to be examined. But at that time I didn't think like that her body type, I was surprised a little that how could she carry a child, I don't know. But if she did carry a child, and a child who from the pictures that I have seen of that child, he looks like a much more robustly built child than if that child was really her and her husband's. Both of them had frailer constitution genetically. Only if two frail people are there, very rarely. And then also whatever it is, I felt that now I feel that child is less likely to be her child. And she had also many instances where she has narrated over phone calls how she has abandoned that child many a times, and she's not a safe mother actually to that child. So if that child is not hers, if the child is biologically someone else's, I feel these are the things now modern healthcare system, justice system needs to work towards, understanding how dangerous it is to have child being raised by people who are not their biological parents also, and who have ulterior motives in raising those children. And after raising those children, who are also ruining some of those children's lives. In the case of this girl Rakhi, if she had stayed in India or went to US, her level of loneliness didn't change, irrespective of whether if she had grown up in an orphanage in India. At least in an orphanage in India, she would have had at least 5-10 other friends with her who would have grown up with her. Whereas when she was adopted now to a institute, to a person in US, while she got maybe a little bit more financially securer life, and a home life, and an education possibly that was slightly better than what she might have had access to in India, but she didn't have the human connection. And people don't understand this, but more than money, more than the physical comforts of life, what a child actually needs when growing up is deep meaningful human connections. Whether that deep meaningful connection comes from friends you create in childhood, or deep meaningful connection comes from the people who raise you, or people who gave birth to you, that is what justice systems also need to start examining a little more deeply when they are wanting to approve adoption of a child. Because sometimes it is not necessary, like more scrutiny should be done about the status of the person the child is getting handed over to, even if some legal permission had been obtained from the mother. And here itself only I'm telling you that I didn't give a legal permission of my eggs, and even then a child was created out of my eggs. If the child has been created without me giving permission for it, I'm speculating that this has happened, but it is 90% chance of this having happened to me is very much possible, simply because of the fact that why will someone keep drugging a friend again and again repeatedly? Why would someone do that, right? So there has to be some ulterior motive for her having done that. So one of the motives could be this, and also because many a time she has there's many other things that is related to her, that if a cop comes to discuss it, I will discuss it. If proof is found that that child is mine, I will discuss it. But there are many hints of when suspicious activity is going on, there is no way a person can actually hide their ill intent or toxic behavioral patterns. Can't be hidden by anyone. So it emerges eventually when someone is doing something illegal, when someone is doing something suspicious. Now this part is important now for this girl Rakhi and all the other girl also, Julia, to understand, because they are both, I feel, under the Rakhi hasn't yet found her biological parents. But let's say doing genetic testing like ancestry and ancestry.com, dna.com registries have not come up as much as they have come up in Europe or in America. But those things are slowly coming up in the Indian market. So when those websites do come up in the Indian market, and if she introduces her DNA now in these registries, now imagine if her father was the rapist of her mother, or if her mother was a prostitute. At that point of time, even if she finds her mother, even if she finds her father, her mother, if alive, could be a prostitute who it is no guarantee that if she finds her family that she will have a deep meaningful bonding with them, especially if let's say her mother was a person who is a prostitute now in India. Most people are from very financially distressful backgrounds, or women who have been trafficked as a child or a teen and got pimped by someone they trusted. So those kind of women get into prostitution. So now if she finds out that her mother was a prostitute, like if she doesn't even, if her mother is dead, a prostitute who died, she might end up finding a grandmother or a grand uncle. But that grandmother or a grand uncle could have been the one who had sold the child to prostitution, could have been the one who had beaten the child so much that the child ran away and then got into prostitution. So do you want to connect with that grandparent? That is one question you might have to ask yourself. Another child could have the father that she finds out is the person who was pimping her mother now, and who has possibly done that to many other women as well. So do you really want to connect to a father like that? So these are the things you should, I'm not saying that this is what your reality is, but if the universe, or if when you are searching for your biological parents, if for many years you couldn't find them, if 10 years have passed, 5 years have passed, you haven't found them, please connect to God, please have a conversation with a spiritual leader or a therapist to understand why is it that the universe is stopping you from finding your genetic ancestry. Because there could be a very protective reason, like there's this saying, rejection is God's protection. So if your biological DNA registry is not showing up anywhere, or if you are not able to find via police investigations and other investigations who your biological parent is, or even if you found some records and those records are closed records, or not enough details are present in those records about your biological ancestry, please remember that there could be a very strong reason for you to not know about your past. Do you want to know about your past, that your father could have murdered your mother, or your mother could have murdered your father, or that all the other possibilities that I have mentioned here, which someone could have taken an egg of your mother and then used it to create a child. Some infertility clinic was doing some experiment. They found they birthed a baby also after via surrogacy, but DNA test showed that when surrogacy was happening, let's say two eggs were introduced, and one egg was the egg of a mother from US who was doing who was using some Indian for surrogacy purposes. Another egg was an Indian mother's egg that was accidentally introduced, because mistakes also can happen while doing these tests. So maybe some mistake happened, two eggs were introduced, two children were born, but one child was obviously an American child, so the mother took that child and went, and she could see that the other child couldn't be of American heritage, or they did the DNA testing of that child and they found that that child is not actually biologically related to the surrogacy parent. So they were not obligated to take that child, so they didn't take that child. But then what happened to the child? That child, now the infertility clinic wanted to sell off a child. The child didn't get sold off for whatever reason. Maybe that's why they went and abandoned that child. That could also happen. So you don't know what could have been going on in the background. Some illegal activity, illicit activity, greater level crime, mass scale crime, something could have been happening that you have no clue about. And if you go searching in search of your parents, if you find out that reality, maybe your life is already, and this girl's life, Rakhi's life, is so bad, like she doesn't have good friends, she doesn't have good connections, she doesn't have anyone to meaningfully make her life seem like she looks like a very depressed girl, and all these things are not going to help her if she even finds out that her biological parents' history. If she finds out the reality of it, the truth can hurt her so much that's why until she's ready to understand the truth, the deeper implications of the truth, maybe that's why the rejection is happening. So that if she eventually finds out if any of these nasty situations were involved in her abandonment, then she can eventually then have the mental fortitude, emotional fortitude to handle that truth. So until the time she's not finding the truth, I would suggest to this girl like Rakhi, or anyone else who's in her place, any boy or girl who's wondering who are their biological parents, or whatever else they are wondering about their past history, understand that the truth will be revealed to you when it is time for the truth to be revealed to you. The time when the truth is not getting revealed to you, do not get anxious about the truth not getting revealed to you. The time when the truth is not revealed to you, prepare yourself mentally and emotionally to understand that something really bad also could have been there in your past, is the reason why the truth is not coming up for you. Or if the truth does come up, not just in your past something bad is going to unfold for you, but something worse could unfold in your future as well. As a result, also sometimes truth is hidden from you. Because now I'm going to switch gear to the second girl's story, Julia's story. I only watched the second video of Julia, and in the second video of Julia, there are many clues in the story she already narrated here, which shows that something very heinous has happened in her past, and something really bad is also likely going to unfold in her future if she is not careful. She needs to be careful. There's a reason why, again, the truth is not getting revealed to her. If she is indeed that girl of the McCann family that she alleges she is, she met that McCann family's Karen, who is supposed to be her, she thinks is possibly her biological mother. And she said that she felt an intense emotional connection when she met that woman. But even though she met that woman and felt an emotional connection to her, when the woman met her, woman said that you are not my daughter and please leave. She wanted the girl to leave. Why? Because let's say now there's also some other parts of the story here, where she's mentioning that some toothbrush was being shared by the mother and the children. Now when toothbrush are being shared by a mother and a child, when does that happen? When a same toothbrush is being shared by different members of the family, it means that either the family was running away from something and they had less access to amenities. It could also mean that they could be involved in some shady activities, or they are really poor, so that's why they are using limited resources. So whatever is the reason why a toothbrush is now getting shared by different people, there's something suspicious going on there as well. And all those suspicious shady little related things she herself has actually uncovered without knowing that she's uncovering something shady. What she has already uncovered, she said that there was this lady who came to her named Fia, who took her DNA sample, and in order to apparently help her in finding out whether she's this other girl. And even though that lady came to find out whether she's this other girl and took her DNA sample also from her, she also, while meeting that lady, again, see, truth can never hide. So that lady is likely involved in some child trafficking activities, because what is the hint to some child trafficking activity related thing that this girl Julia has discovered about Fia? In her Fia's home, she said she met certain other kids who were apparently Fia's children, and while Fia was speaking in a Persian language, the children didn't know that language. So that also shows the fact that this other lady Fia is likely involved in some child trafficking related activities, because if you are raising a child and you don't know the same language as the children you are raising, that can happen if they are your adoptive children, possibly. But if they are not real legal adoptive children, also there is a problem there. If they are legally adopted children also, they will take some time to get adjusted. But along with it, she also found this doctor who is trying to discredit her, that she is not Julia. And that doctor also, when she said that that doctor lives a few miles away from Fia, that is a connection. Like, people who are involved in child trafficking, people who are drugging a woman for some reason, they will drug a woman, take their child, take their biological child from them, sell the biological child into child trafficking activities or child sale related activities. All these are also ancillary things going on, and this girl has already actually discovered all this. And a person who allows their own biological child or their partner's biological child to be trafficked is a person who will have the same kind of characteristics like Jerry has in this video. Like Jerry McCann, how he behaved with her, very distant, very cold. The sociopathic people, psychopathic people, people with no remorse about what they put a child through, those kind of people are going to be remorseless, emotionally disconnected. And the reason why Karen doesn't want her to discover whether she is actually the McCann child is because if she is indeed the McCann child, and if she again gets introduced back into Karen's life, Karen cannot guarantee possibly her safety, because maybe Jerry is involved in some high level criminal activities that will possibly endanger the girl Julia even more. So a mother, if she is really her mother, she wouldn't, and she already has two twin children who might also be getting abused in ways people are not aware about, and that's why she's asking this girl to go away. Because if you are a biological mother, wouldn't you want your child to be, if the child has already been taken for many years while she is grieving, and while the family did do some tests to prove that some other on other people. They have done some genetic tests, but over a while, if the mother knows that what is going on with her husband is much more dangerous, then also she will and victims of abuse of sociopathic people do not wake up to the fact that their partner is sociopathic or psychopathic or really criminally minded. Some of those victims do not wake up until 10-20 years that this is what was going on with their spouse. So while when her daughter initially disappeared, at that time she assumed that her daughter was just kidnapped or by someone, or she was not aware of the degree and depth of what was going on with her husband and husband's friends. Because if child trafficking is going on and very deeper level complex things are going on at that point of time, if really bad complex criminal activity is going on, again a person who is wrecked with debt, having a life where they are not aware, a little bit naive person, such people get trapped into lives with such people who are high level criminal, because they search also for those target victims who will be naive, who will be trusting, who will be completely reliant on someone else emotionally for their emotional needs. So like that this McCann woman could have got trapped by her husband, and Karen, she could have got trapped by her husband, and then now she has given birth to three children. Is he even the biological father? That could be a question mark as well. He may not even be a biological father of the girl who went missing. He may not be the biological father of the two twins he is raising, but he is simply raising them for exploiting them at some level. Because sociopathic people are like that. They can raise anyone else's kids and pretend to be in front of media. Anyone can pretend to be really caring about someone, but the reality of how they actually care for someone is in the nitty gritty details. Like if he is a abusive man, financially abusive person, the fact that only one toothbrush is there for two people to use in the home, it can also be a minor indicator of financial abuse. Other indicators, whether it is financial abuse or something else, depends on the other ancillary factors. But this is how you figure out what is actually going on. And definitely something high level suspicion is going on. And this girl, she should remove her Instagram page about claiming that she is that girl, a McCann girl. Her life is likely in heavy danger. The reason why police are not doing the efficient policing activities is because if they even match her DNA to the McCann girl, and if they bring her back into the life of the McCann family, she might be in even worse danger in their life because of the fact of some hidden criminal activities that is possibly going on. And this Fia and that other doctor is likely very much involved in those criminal activities, and they're continuing their criminal activities even now. And this is also another thing, when someone comes to you and approaches you to help you with your thing, like how Fia approached her to help her in her family's search. That girl, Fia, that came up, has wanted to hide the truth, but in the guise of helping her, she took her DNA to actually, and when she said there was some glitch happening in the website where the DNA was uploaded and things like that, and Fia took her password for uploading her DNA. They have possibly switched her DNA already in websites, and if they are high level criminals and highly connected criminals, people can do that as well. But sometimes that manipulation also that is going on behind her back, she's got the suspicion now that some manipulation is happening. But if she really wants to focus on understanding whether she was biologically raised by the family that raised her in Europe is her biological family or not, already the patterns of behavior of the people who raised her only shows that she's not their biological child. I can guarantee tell you she's not their biological child from the behavioral patterns they have. And when she said, like, her mother is the mother who raised her is very clean, doesn't keep any hair samples, cleans up the whole home very efficiently, that shows that that woman has a guilty conscience. That's why she doesn't want to leave any DNA evidence anywhere, because of the fact that she actually does know that her child is not her child, but she can't reveal that to her, because of which she's doing this level activity. So for this girl to get closure, now this girl is actually wanting to seek closure and wanting to get clarity about her roots. And if she wants, just what I will suggest to her, if she wants to have a safe life, healthy life, don't go in this path, because there's something criminal going on both in the McCann family's life. There might be something, if not criminal, there might be something suspicious also going on in the other family's life. So do not dig a grave where you will end up lying in the grave eventually, because she's already dug this grave. She can't do anything about it. I had to question whether I should post this video, but I have also already dug my own grave, because I also went in search with a truth which is now causing me to be trapped in such a way where I also have Julia level problems in my life right now, and because the girl that I mentioned here, not just her, but there are, for some reason, I have been the poster child of people abusing me without me knowing that I was getting abused and manipulated by me. I'm really that miraculous stupid person, and poster child of continuously being surreptitiously used by other people for things that I know I have actually real zero evidence about. But if any legal organization, any cop, any person wanting to investigate all the things that seem like a very foo-foo thing or a very unrealistic thing, if they start investigating it, the truth will emerge. But the truth that will emerge will be as gory a truth as what I have discussed in this video, as gory a truth that Giselle Pellicott discovered, as gory a truth that already Julia has discovered. It's just that it's not a concrete enough proof, but there is enough evidence already that has showed up in her life that actually shows. And she doesn't, I am a neutral person, so I have more clarity, and I can 100% guarantee tell you that what has shown up in her life is something very nefarious going on with both families. And if she continues the investigation, she'll put her life in much more danger. And she's also she's like me only. Children like me who are not supported by many people are the kinds who, if we go investigating such truths, we'll be in such dangerous situations where no one will be ready to help us, because we don't have the social power, financial power, or any other power to get out of also very bad health harming situation. And this girl Julia is more likely to get murdered if she is not careful with what she is going through. I've already had many instances, because of what I have been writing and saying. Many people have already attacked me from physical level to spiritual level to shut down the truth that I'm speaking about. And because my life is already in danger, that's why I'm not going to be in any different status if I discuss this more and more. Because if you are already in 1 danger, 10 danger, 5, 6 different elements of danger has already presented to you in your life, there are only 2 places I can go. One is I'll survive through all the dangers that I went through. The second is, if I don't survive, I'm going to die. But before I die, I want to help the people who really help in a way that they need help, which is to understand that sometimes it may be better to not uncover the truth. And sometimes if you've already uncovered a lot of great truths, understand that without concrete proof also you can get closure. Get the closure that your mom is likely, if you are the McCann family's daughter, your mother is likely in a very abusive situation. Secondly, get closure that become first stronger in your own life. if you want to help your mother also in any way, you can't help her without you becoming stronger first. Secondly, if something suspicious is going on with her, the other mother, I don't know how good she was when she raised you. If she was a good mother to you when she raised you, have the gratitude of the other mother who raised you. Don't go searching for something yet. Wait for time to reveal. Again, there is a divine timing. There might be a divine reason for you not reaching the actual truth right now. For Julia, I'm saying this, or any other girl like Julia who has uncovered many suspicious activities, and your intuition is right. Your intuition is right that those two people are not your biological parents. The other two people might be, one of them might be your biological parent. But understand that if your biological parent is married to someone who is not your biological parent, who pretended to be your biological parent for many years, or even if both are your biological parents, then also understand that those people as well can have some things going on in their life related to mental illness, social illness, abuse, criminal activity, which will endanger you if you get involved. Because not everyone's family, like in movies, we see all these movies where people go and connect back to their biological family, and it was a very emotional and lovely thing when they connected with their biological family. And we all want that. We want that deep connectivity with someone, that deep emotional care taking via someone who loves us, who's biologically connected to us. But not every person biologically connected to you will have that deep emotional empathetic connection with you, or have the consideration towards you, how family is supposed to be considerate towards you. Sometimes your biological family is the one who will be the opposite of what you imagine in a movie that a biological family will do. Because if Jerry is her dad, he is definitely an antisocial personality, and he is, all the way in which he behaved with her shows he's an antisocial personality. And antisocial personality dad is worse than not having a dad at all. Trust me. Or having a dad who was just who has raised you well but was not biologically connected to you. So go back to your dad who raised you, who is making these jokes because obviously he has that guilt of having kidnapped a child. But maybe him having kidnapped you actually did you a favor of giving you a life in a different country with a set of parents who gave you a much better life than the life you would have had if you had lived with an antisocial personality as your dad. Whether he's your biological dad or not, I don't know. And this is also the second reason why they are possibly not testing very easily whether you are that child. Because again, with the McCann family also, if there is a couple who has shown up in the media saying their daughter has disappeared, now that couple, while to the media and at that point of time, everyone is assuming that this McCann girl who disappeared so many years back is both of their biological child. It is not necessary that she is either of their biological child or both of their biological child. Does that make sense? Because what she could also be like me, like when I said that there are multiple people who are doing some financial manipulations behind my back, legal manipulations behind my back, without me actually having any proof of it. But if you do go about digging the proof about it, you will find that proof. Same thing could be happening with Julia also, that even she was possibly not even the she could be biological daughter of Karen, she could be biological daughter of Jerry, but she could also be Julia, that McCann girl who disappeared, but not, she's the girl who disappeared possibly, and matching the DNA with that girl will be the strongest proof. But if she's and if she's that girl who disappeared, but she could still not be biologically related to Karen and Jerry, and the reason why they don't want to match with her is because if that DNA evidence does show that she is the McCann child who disappeared, and then police want to double confirm it by confirming it with Karen and Jerry's DNA, then the real truth about Karen and Jerry will come up. And that's why also they don't want her to get tested, or they are not ready to do the testing, because the second set of tests, because the partial DNA is right now available to them, and because this DNA is from many years back, the many years back DNA means the DNA could have also spoiled over time. So because the DNA could have spoiled over time, the second clarification testing is usually done by testing with the parents' DNA as well, possibly. But if they are not her biological parents at all, or one of them is not the biological parent, and they don't want the world to know it, because what do sociopaths do, what do psychopaths do? They use a sad thing or a grief stricken thing that happens to them to generate a lot of income and sympathy and help from other people. But because they are sociopathic and psychopathic and narcissistic, they want to milk that more than actually have the real like, say Jerry is not the parent and Jerry is indeed one of these personality types that I'm discussing. These personality types only want to milk a system for their advantage. They don't really genuinely care whether that girl is found or not found. Karen, if she's biologically related, or if she was not even biologically related but really genuinely loved that girl that she was raising at the time, also for Karen also, even if she's biologically related, not biologically related, loved that kid, but if she is in an abusive marriage or a criminal setup where she knows that a lot of harm will come to some innocent girl, even if that is the real girl who disappeared, she knows that it might be better if that girl doesn't get found out. That's why also she's behaving this way. So understand that if you're getting rejection, it is your protection, and now learn to become protective about yourself. And if she did really have good parents who raised her, or good enough parents who raised her, start developing the gratitude towards the parents who had raised her. If she did have some abuse in the family with the parents who raised her, go to counseling, go to connect to God, connect to someone who will understand your plight, connect to other children, create a forum. If you want to create a forum about children who are not sure about their parents. Don't create a forum about you might be this famous person's who has disappeared. Rather than that, create a new Instagram forum about kids who don't know whether your family is your biological family. And I'm questioning that, because this similar question that has arisen to her is also something I'm struggling with recently, because I also have antisocial personality family. I also have family who do not care about me. I also have family who have shown many indicators of never caring for me at a level a family should be caring for you. Now, whether they are my biological family doing that means they have only mental and social illnesses. They are biologically related, but their mental and social illness causes them to not be emotionally connected how family should be connected. If they are not my biological family, then they are definitely, that makes it crystal clear why they are not emotionally as invested or connected with me. And these are the same range of questions I went through. I haven't done, that's why, any DNA analysis. I was prevented and guided to not do it, because I want the truth to come out when the truth needs to come out. And secondly, I also know that if I open that can of worms, whether I'm biologically related or not related, it doesn't solve the current problems. My current problems are much more higher than a simple problem of solving whether I'm biologically related to someone or not. So based on the current set of problems that I'm going through, I need solution for those current the most urgent, like, I'm a very structured individual in a way that I solve the problem that needs to be solved first, than solve a problem that can wait to be solved. Like the DNA evidence, if I'm not someone's biological child, can that evidence, how much ever people manipulate, the reality of that will show up when it needs to show up, right? Same way, the reality of where I need currently some help related to my life, where abuse is happening, where other problems are happening, where because of someone else's criminal activities I am under the radar. But because of that also, if some other child is in danger who could possibly not be in danger if they were not involved in some criminal's life, that child's life now needs to be saved. So that's why I'm making these videos, because people who are working in justice system, legal system, needs to understand, if a child is involved in a nasty situation where something bad is happening, enough group of people have to wake up together and in conjunction to ensure that the child now gets a safer childhood after they are extracted from that bad situation. Because of the fact of girls like Julia and girls like Rakhi, who, even if some person, some soul who knew something bad is happening to a child, took them away from a bad situation, took them into a better life, also a slightly better life, possibly not majorly or vastly greater life, but whatever was happened in their life, that they were shifted to a different life with a different family. But at that time also, you have to scrutinize that after you have shifted a child to a different family, did they really end up getting into a family that was good for them, or did they fall into a worse situation? Because for some children, they can fall into a worse family life than the family life of abuse that would have happened if they had stayed with their biological family. And for some, so for Rakhi, I feel even though her life in US was bad, she actually went into a slightly better, not marginally better, but only like slightly better lifestyle and childhood happened for her. But the grief of not having people genetically connected to her, I understand that, because if people are not genetically connected to you, they don't understand you. That feels very isolationary, that feels very you are constantly battling, going against the grain, against people who don't understand you at an organic level. So it is a grief, I understand why she wants to find her biological family. But her biological family, if they are not good family, she will be in more trouble. She might end up finding that which could be part of her journey as well, that if she goes in search of a biological family and 2 years later she finds some of them, she might end up discovering that her adoptive mother was not as bad as she thought she was. That could also happen to her. So I want her to do some self-reflection, connect with some therapists, connect with some spiritual people, like real spiritual people. And this difficult journey of both Julia and Rakhi have shown up in their life, or shown up in people like me, my life, or my, if there are eggs that have been taken from me and then used for creating some biological children I don't know about, those now biological children, in their life also this dilemma of having two kinds of parents, two sets of parents, one set of parent who might have been really cruel, one set you don't know whether they will be cruel or not. All this dilemma shows up for some spiritual reasons, a spiritual reason which will not show up in your life until you start doing the inner work, inner journey of healing, inner journey of gratitude. I do have gratitude for the family that raised me, but I can't have gratitude for the places where I was neglected. Or even if I do have the gratitude, the only gratitude I can have is as a result of the neglect that I went through in my childhood, the lack of emotional connection I felt with my family in my childhood or adulthood. All of these simply means that I have this gratitude that because I don't feel emotionally connected to many of them, or because many of them have indeed consistently neglected me throughout many difficult, challenging phases of my life, the gratitude lies in the fact that as a consequence of those experiences with them, or lack of depth filled experiences with them, whenever I do have a depth filled, better quality experience even with a stranger, it makes me more appreciative. That is my gratitude. I am more appreciative of those strangers who have shown the right empathy, right level of care or caretaking or understanding, or just listening capacity of someone's pain. Those are the things that I am more grateful for as a consequence of the fact that the people who were not emotionally connected, who had mental and social illness problems, because my mental and social illness related problems are actually very similar to what even I speculated about Rakhi and what I'm speculating about Julia. Both kind of things were present in my life. It's just that I do not have the proof of it right now. Not that the proof can't be gathered, but to gather the proof, the resources you need, the people you need to work through it, the truth that I might discover might need the level of courage that I may or may not have, or even if I have it, the world around me may not have that courage. That's why only I'm slowly building up all the horrors that I have lived through in all my posts, because most of my posts do have all the hidden and small bits and pieces of evidence of all the things that, like how Julia is understanding that there's something suspicious about Fia, is understanding there was something suspicious in her interaction with Karen and Jerry. All of these things, how she's discovering, and this has been her journey for her also for a few years, I believe. So like that, how you discover suddenly when you, in retrospect, when you have been covertly abused, the discovery of your covert abuse, or when some manipulative things were going on behind your back without you knowing what was actually going on behind your back, all of the discovery of that happens like this only over time, over slow developing, deeper developing understanding of what are the critical elements that are influencing these suspicious behavior, which your intuition says this is suspicious, but now real evidence gathering will prove what was the real suspicion. But in some of these cases where high level something wrong is going on, if you start gathering the evidence, you will land up in trouble, like I have landed in trouble. So be careful is what I will say to some of the people, and be wise, be careful, be wise, be develop resilience, connect to God. And if you want to connect to me, but I will help you only if I feel guided to help you, because I am very sharp about my boundaries about these things as well, because I have too many trouble in my life to help people beyond what I'm doing while making these videos. If I have to do that beyond help, it has to be the right thing I am doing and rightly guided thing I am doing. I hope that made sense. Anyone has questions, comments, wants to share anything, or wants to connect with me, please connect with me. Thank you very much. Have a great day.